going to be making some Cornish Pasty. It's a family recipe that's been handed down for hundreds of years. I actually do genealogy on the side too, and we've got our family traced all the way back to Cornwall, England, where these originated. That's why they got the name Cornish Pasties. And they brought them over with them, and they were an easy, hot meal for miners to take down in the mines with them. And they would have it like in a big tin, and they'd have the hot pasty, they'd have maybe a soup and some coffee. And it would be like 3 different compartments, and that way it was easy for them to have a nice hot meal while they were working in the mine. So what I've done so far is rolled out my dough. I've got a couple different sizes here. We've got the cutouts. This is my first time using our mini pie cutters and the tray, so why not start with a family recipe? So what I've done, the bigger one is for the bottom and the smaller one is for the top. So, and you can use these for biscuit cutters. If you want to make tortillas, you can use these for tortilla cutters. All kinds of fun stuff. So what I've done is rolled out my dough, and then I've made most of the cuts here. I've made the smaller ones, and there's 6 mini pies in the tray, which I'll show you in a little bit. But then we have the bigger ones for the bottom. So you'll see all of this here in a moment, but I wanted to show you while I'm doing it how to cut them. So you just find your little spot here, and I try to use as much of the dough as I possibly can. My grandma would make these all the time, and it was just a thing, and I didn't realize that it was a family recipe that had been passed down for so many hundreds of years. Now I've got the tops. I'm going to build my Cornish pasty next. So I cut up some potatoes. Usually you peel the potatoes, but I like potato skins. I think they add a lot of nutrients. You lose a lot of the nutrients when you take the skins off. So I cleaned them and cut them up a little bit. I'm going to kind of gauge what I need. I'm just going to chop some. And this is super easy. I don't want them too small, but small enough for bite size. And let me tell you, this chopper lets you get aggression out. I just cut these up into little chunks where I can, because unlike the food processor, I'm not trying to mince these things. I'm not trying to get them down to just a pulp. I want some texture there. So you can chop the onions as finely or as coarsely as you like. And it's as easy as that. I have already buttered and floured my pan. So here's our pie pan. Like I said, you can make any kind of pies in here you want. If you want to make a pot pie, you want to make a fruit pie, you want to make a pecan pie, or like I'm doing here, a meat pie. So there's a lot of ways you can do it, a lot of things you can do. So remember, the bigger ones are for the bottom here, and you just kind of crimp it in there and get it all nice and snug in its little house. So now we're going to assemble. And I've already marinated or seasoned my meat, so you can choose any meat that you prefer. I know my grandma always used sirloin meat, but I'm just using this, and I put meat tenderizer on it and a little garlic powder, and we're good to go. So I think I'm gonna put a few potatoes and carrots, kind of layer it. Carrots, did I just say carrots? Oh, what is wrong with me? All right, so let's add our meat. Okay, now we have it all assembled. And so I'm gonna season it up a little bit more. I like garlic powder, so I always add it. And this is probably straying so far from the original recipe, but it's close. My grandma came from a town called Mineral Point, Wisconsin, and In almost every restaurant in Mineral Point, you're going to find a Cornish pasty. And typically, they serve them with chili sauce. So people will eat this with chili sauce. I was always kind of raised with either chili sauce or ketchup. Putting a little pepper on here. And then a little salt. I'm from Rockford, Illinois, so I don't know if y'all know who beefaroo is, but beefaroo salt, I love it. It's so good. So I'm going to put a little bit of that on here, just a little bit. Don't go crazy. Now I'm going to actually add a couple pats of butter here and there around here so it will give it some moisture. And I guess I'm going to get the big guns out for this. Not a huge pat, but I'm going to now put the top on. And I've got an egg wash all ready. I'm just going to take a little bit of the egg wash and put it around the edges so we can seal this bad boy up. And I always put it around the other edge too, just to make sure it's nice and secure. And then you could just kind of crimp it to, there's a natural shape here in the pan. And you will want to vent this crust. Okay, so now they're all formed and they're all pretty in their little packages. And I'm just gonna put some egg wash over the top. I've preheated my oven to 375. I'm only doing that because I want to cook it a little bit faster than normal. It should cook for about 45 minutes at least. Stick a thermometer in it. Make sure it's at least at 165, of course, because you've got raw meat in there. But it shouldn't take any more than 45 minutes. Because these are smaller pies, they're going to cook individually, and it won't take as long as it would if you were making a big pie. I'll show you something I'm going to do when there's only about 5 or 10 minutes left of cooking. This is something my mom always used to do. She would cut up any leftover pie dough when she was making a pie. And I'm just going to maybe cut this one more time. And she'd cut it into little triangles or little squares like this and put cinnamon and sugar on it, and then put it on a sheet pan or cookie sheet and bake it for 5 minutes or so, 5-10 minutes, till it gets nice and crispy. And it comes out and it's just like a cookie. It tastes so good. Okay, here's the moment of truth. The Cornish pasty have been taken from the oven, and so have the cinnamon and sugar pie crust. So let's see what it looks like. That's the Cornish pasty, and see how nice and golden brown it got. And it is nice and hot on the inside. All I have to do is pop these out. I've got a nice crispy crust. And here's the cinnamon sugar cookies. I always call them cookies, but they're really just pie crust cut up and put cinnamon and sugar on them. All right, I just wanted to share that family fun recipe. It's always been very special in my heart, so I'm glad to share it with you.